welcome, welcome. I'm Betsy Mitchell, I'm the Director of Athletics, Physical Education and Recreation. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all here today. Thank you so much for coming. For those of you who have traveled great distance, I'm not pleased that you brought this other weather with you. You can just take it right on back for all I care. No, we're so glad to have this group here today. I want to welcome you. There are lots of different folks here today. Certainly we welcome our honorees and your families. We welcome many of our senior student athletes. They're spread at the tables. Certainly our department staff and other Caltech community folks. We're very pleased to be on the tail end of such a great weekend here at Caltech, celebrating all aspects of the Institute. I do want to start with appreciation. Often at these events, the appreciation gets shoved in at the end when everybody's ready to run out the door. And so I need to say thank you to those who made the event possible, our committee, Pat Beamer, Sandra Marbett, Heather Semmelmacher, Mark Becker, Lisa Beach, and our entire athletic department for pitching in, making it such a lovely day. Those of you in our community who have participated in the nomination of our honorees last year and this year and hopefully next year and in many years to come. I need to say thank you to Jean-Luc Chameau, our immediately former president at Caltech, as well as my boss, Dr. Anila Sargent, the Vice President for Student Affairs, to whom our department reports and contributes to the Division of Student Affairs, and our new president, Tom Rosenbaum. And the reason that I'm calling those three out is because they have steadfastly decided that athletics, physical education, and recreation will be very important at Caltech again. And that's not bad news to anyone in this room. It's also not new news to anyone in this room, because we have all participated and contributed to that important endeavor. And I'm grateful to those three for steadfastly beginning to speak about the importance of these endeavors again. I'm certain that's been different at past points in our 100+ year history, but I'm, for one, grateful that we're beginning that conversation loudly again. My role is to keep us moving and to do not very much talking. But I would like for our senior student athletes to stand up and stay standing while I say a thing or two. Senior student athletes. Stay standing. There you go. Now, this is just a representative sample. I think there are a few of their classmates who are still going to arrive. We have more on the RSVP list. In just a moment, Stephanie Reynolds is going to come and speak on behalf of our student athletes about her experience. But I wanted to say a special thank you to these seniors, because in the only way that I will become close to being a classmate at the California Institute of Technology, these are my classmates. We arrived here together 4 years ago. And these seniors and others have been a tremendous part of changing the dynamic and the momentum in our athletic department. And to each of you, I say thank you very, very much. I wish you only the best as you turn the corner towards life away or after Caltech. And please remember to come back and see us. Don't go far in your hearts. Thank you for being here today. All right, now, Stephanie Reynolds is going to speak with us to give the current student perspective. We start and end all important things with students here. Stephanie has displayed her strong leadership the past few years in cross country and track and field. She has set the program record in the 6-kilometer run in cross country and ranks in the top 3 times in program history in an incredible 4 different events. Stephanie was voted the SCIAC's Celia Peterson Sportsmanship Award for best exemplifying the conference's ideals based on ability, leadership, determination, sportsmanship, and academics. I would tell you on a personal note that Stephanie always smiles at me. She's always smiling. Now I imagine when she's reading or at her computer or in her lab or doing whatever it is she's doing when she's not running, there would be moments of intense focus. But to me, she's always smiling. And she's always exuding passion for being down around the athletic center and being out on the road running, being on the track. And it has just been a joy to watch her grow and develop and contribute to our program. So I'm thrilled to ask Stephanie to come to the stage and give you a bit of her perspective on being a student athlete at Caltech. Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a senior, graduating this year, and I was a member of the track and cross-country teams all 4 years that I was here. As Betsy told you, I have the cross-country school record, and I've been captain for 3 seasons. But for me, the most valuable part of sports at Caltech has been my teammates. I came into Caltech as a distance runner. My team from high school had a state championship-winning cross-country team. So it was a big contrast to what I was used to. I went from being on a team that won almost every meet to a team that is lucky to beat a single school. It was a bit of a shock, and it took me a few weeks to get used to. By the time my first cross-country season ended, I had learned so much about the team and myself that I was excited to go through the next 4 years. One of the first things that stood out to me was the level of dedication and enthusiasm present in Caltech athletics. Everyone on the team wanted to be there. Every time I watched someone sprinting down the sidewalk, waving their arms for us not to leave before they could change out of their lab clothes, it made me proud to have teammates so in love with the sport. Indeed, not everyone could show up every single day, but for reasons that made me proud. One teammate might have an interview in Boston, another might be stuck in lab for a time-sensitive step in a biology experiment. Despite the team's crazy successful individual lives, separate from athletics, once they were on the track, they would give a genuine effort. When we towed the line of a race together, we were a team and united. It was a refreshing change from my high school team, and it made me proud to be a Caltech Beaver. I also learned a lot from being on the cross-country and track teams. In addition to learning all of the normal things you would expect to learn from sports, i.e. hard work, dedication, patience, I learned better time management skills. Having practice at 4 p.m. every day made me work more efficiently. I learned how to be accepting and genuinely appreciative of my teammates who had never done sports before. The fact that a Caltech student can find the time to start running for the first time ever in between 12-hour problem sets is a testament to their dedication and courage. And I learned how to set realistic and holistic goals. Finally, this past year, I realized that not all college students get the opportunity to play NCAA sports. We kind of take it for granted that any Caltech student can join any team that they want, even if they've never played before. It's a unique experience and one that I'm glad to be a part of. When I look back at my Caltech career, I will remember not just my own successful races, but the feeling of watching my teammates succeed.
Thanks so much, Steph. I start our event hearing from our current student athletes purposefully. And I think if last year's inductees are anything like this year's inductees, no pressure, none whatsoever. The reason is because for these 100+ years, there have been amazing stories of using athletics as the most interesting laboratory. It is truly a unique laboratory. It is a public display of one's learning. And I think that's one reason why it resonates so with our student athletes here, and it's one reason why it is so challenging for any of us, is the very public nature of the courage to risk, the return on that risk, the benefit of what you take from the lessons of it. But the students are our reason for being here, and we very much appreciate you. All right, I forgot a few of the things that I should say, the housekeeping things up front. First is, please make sure to turn off your phones, right? Second, that the restrooms, for those of you who may need them, are just up past the gene pool to the left, and in Beckman, the first set of stairs and the first ramp there on the left. So we'll be headed up that way if you need anything. Now, lunch. Lunch, we're going to eat lunch first, and then we're going to get to the main event, which is to hear from our honorees. So if we could, in order, let's have table 1 and 2 start to the back for lunch. I'll let folks release from up here. We should get through this part fairly quickly. We'll take 20, 25 minutes to eat. We don't need to rush as we're a small gathering today. And then we'll get on with the program. All right. So tables 1 and 2 would head on back and get something to eat. We'll take up in just a minute. All right, we're going to move through the inductees in the order that they're in your program. I would ask that you please hold your applause until I can read the introduction for each of our honorees, and they can enjoy your applause and appreciation while they're making their way here via the orange carpet. Each class is chosen by our Hall of Honor committee from a list of nominees submitted by members of the Caltech community and thoroughly researched by our archival team. We continue to make efforts to identify and shine a spotlight on the major achievements in our past, and many of you have played an integral role in that through your nominations. We thank you. We're also always looking for more bona fide data to add to our archives, and we've been actively trying to take in that oral history as we've moved through these last few years to begin this Hall of Honor last year. So please know that we're actively seeking to compile perhaps lost moments from our athletic history. I couldn't be more pleased with our second class of honorees. We'll begin with the Pioneer category. The 1971-72 women's fencing team became the first women's intercollegiate sports team here, just 1 year after women were admitted to the Institute in 1970. 4 freshmen and 2 sophomores competed in the foil across 12 matches, including the Intercollegiate Fencing Conference of Southern California, that championships, where they improved against 2 of 3 opponents they had faced earlier in the year. This group helped pave the way for many of the young women in the room, but for the bright future of women's athletics at Caltech, with the Beavers now proudly fielding 8 women's teams. Ann Clements, Catherine Delfas, Deborah Melke, Mary Ogilvie, and the 2 representatives of the team who are here with us today, Janet Wainwright and Marie Beal. Please welcome to the stage Janet and Marie.
Hi, I'm Janet, and Marie remembered her jacket. Mine's still hanging in a closet in Virginia. I didn't think I would need it. So I was wrong this week. What can I say?
So, thank you for honoring the Caltech women's fencing team of 1971-72. We were telling the story at the table earlier. The Caltech had previously had a men's fencing team, but with the inclusion of women in the institute, the league informed them that they had to field a women's team. There were at that time 60 undergraduate women, and the 2 sophomores had had some instruction in fencing, but they were complete newbies. We got 3 weeks of instruction, and we went into intercollegiate competition. So as you can imagine, we were not very good. Our criteria for success was lower than other people's. The other teams could not understand why we were so happy all the time. We were happy because we hadn't fallen over. But it's part of the experience was the experience that everybody has at Caltech, which is that to know that you've done your best, to know that you've improved, and that it's okay that there are other people who are better than you, because there are going to be other people who are better than you. And just to have fun with and be satisfied with what you're doing. We also had one of the most colorful characters as a coach that anybody can imagine. Whether this was true or not, he used to claim that he'd been run away from home and joined the French Foreign Legion as a boy. And he used to talk about the older guys they had some death march across the Algerian sands, and the other guys carried his back for him when he couldn't. Anyway, so we had a great deal of fun, and we're glad that there are now women who are actually successful athletes at Caltech. We are living proof of the thing they put on TV, that most NC2A athletes go pro in something other than sports.
humility and self-deprecation aside, somebody has to come first, and it takes a certain kind of person to lead the way. Thank you, ladies. All right, moving to our individual inductees in the athlete category. Our first inductee is Manny Bass, class of 1949. Manny was a three-sport athlete while attending Caltech, starring in football, as well as throwing for the track and field team and playing basketball. Long considered one of the best football players in Caltech history, the two-time All-SCIAC first team tackle also became the first Beaver to be named Little All-Pacific, All-Pacific Coast, and Little All-American. Manny also threw the discus with the track and field team, placing fourth in the SCIAC Championship in 1948. After graduation, he returned to Caltech to coach the freshman football team. Please join me in a warm welcome for Manny Bass.
I'm not quite sure what to say when I got up here, so I suspected a simple thank you is sufficient. However, in my usual moment, I put something together and I'd like to read it to you. Bear with me, it's kind of nostalgic. I've never played on a winning team in high school or college, but I enjoyed it. So Caltech didn't come as any surprise to me. But nonetheless, let me read this, what I'm saying. I want to introduce you to some aspects of Caltech athletics that you may not know about or may not have given a lot of thought to, simply because of the passage of time. But the title of this is A Student Athlete Celebration of a Unique Era, 1946 to 1949. That's the post-war era. So I will read this. I speak as a member of a team who carried out assignments. As a lineman, I was marked by scabs on both cheeks, no face mask then. From Union Station, I arrived by red tar at Macon, California on March 1st, 1946, 5 months out of the Navy. I then walked 3 blocks to find a school that was the epitome of small, and with a center strip paved with ice plant. There was no Millikan library there. There was almost nothing of Caltech north of San Pasquale, which was a through street. I was assigned to Dabney House, but later moved to Fleming at Paul Saltman's behest with the last of the Navy B-12 left in mid-1946. All 4 student houses were then open to civilians. We could watch the 200-inch Palomar telescope being ground in the building immediately to the west. Many freshmen wore khakis or other old uniforms and paid for tuition, books, and fees through the GI Bill. This is, it was really post-war. Among the new faculty arrivals in that era was a physicist named Dick Feynman, who preferred to eat lunch with students in the greasy spoon rather than in the afternoon. On January 11, 1949, we awoke to the great Pasadena snowfall, which is unlikely to be repeated soon. How many of you can remember that? Anyway, like my high school, Caltech had no gym or pool. We practiced basketball and played home games at the Armory on Raymond Avenue and carpooled to get there on our own. Swimmers and the water polo team practiced at Pasadena City College. Our baseball stands in Tournament Park were a federal gift to the city of Pasadena under the WPA during the Depression. Basketball for PE was played on clay courts and were surface hardened by calcium chloride. The bonfire pyramid in Tournament Park was guarded by freshmen all night during the week preceding the Oxy game, and there were raids, one of which ended rather humorously. Nonetheless, let me just say many things have changed. As was my wound, I went out for sports to avoid the regimentation of BE. We were not jocks, but everything, an exceptionally high percentage of us indulged the diversion and relaxation of sports through intercollegiate competition. Many of the athletes were veterans, some of them combat vets who understood uphill battles, some returning to Caltech after a lapse to fight a war. Gordon Manning piloted a glider full of infantry into Normandy on D-Day. Many of the vets were married, but they, like my brother Leon, found time and incentive to practice and play. These men earned their stripes as part of Tom Brokaw's greatest generation. As expected, those few of us with high school experience or natural talent got to play a lot against the best that our opponents could offer. In football, we played Pepperdine every year. How many of you knew that Pepperdine played football? They got a team right off the bat. Their fullback, Dick Horn, was the leading scorer in the nation for one season and promoted to the second season. We led the 1948 Oxford team well into the fourth quarter, and we should have won. But that team beat Colorado State in the racing bowl. So regardless of our outcome, we showed up and we played to win, and in my opinion, we were winners. My hat is off to my teammates and coaches and to the other students who never labeled us as losers. I owe a lot to those teammates and coaches, some of whom I'd like to acknowledge. Bob Funk, our football captain, and Pete Merringer, assistant football coach, football All-American lineman at Kansas, twice on the Notre Dame All-Opponent team, and that meant something. A college and Olympic wrestler and a professional football player and wrestler. He told me that he was never on his back in Olympic wrestling. He also told me that he thought he could get me a football scholarship in Kansas. I declined the offer. Illegal recruiting? I'm not sure. Anyway, I was offered an opportunity to try out with the Steelers. Pete told me if I decided to take the offer, to come see him so that he could teach me to play football. A very sobering thought. As expected, some with whom I played football and basketball have outstanding academic, research, professional, and public affairs careers. Among them, Paul Saltman was a distinguished alumnus, Caltech's highest honor. Neil Keynes became the president of USC. Don Baker, the Wheaton Award winner in 1949, was master of Brown College at Rice University. Glenn Chafee, a very good tailback, was the lead pastor of the Church of the Nazarene in San Francisco. Caltech people are not monolithic in their thinking. And Dallas Beck became director of the U.S. Geological Survey. These were all athletes here at Caltech. As a freshman line coach under Ed Chrysler in 1949, I coached Hugh Taylor, a Caltech full professor and a member of the National Academy of Sciences. And incidentally, Ed Chrysler was long regarded as the greatest all-around athlete in the history of San Diego State. We had some very competent coaches, as I'm sure we do today. Was it all worth it? I'd say yes, both in real time and today when it's so generously chosen to place me on some highly gifted athletes at the Caltech Athletic Hall of Honor, providing me a free lunch. I hope you've not changed your mind in the light of these comments, and I thank you for a very pleasant journey through some nice memories.
Thank you so much, Manny. Next, we have Bruce Chesborough, class of 1963. Bruce earned 3 varsity letters with both swimming, diving, and water polo, captaining both squads for 2 years each. The leading scorer, all 4 years on the water polo team, he also claimed an individual and 2 relay Skyak titles, setting 2 conference and another meet record. Bruce earned all Skyak first team honors both years he competed, leading Caltech to a pair of team Skyak championships, and went on to break both the school and Skyak record in the 100 freestyle at the National AAU Championships. Among his many honors, he was awarded swimming's Campbell Award for sportsmanship, improvement, and ability, and named the 1961-62 school year Outstanding Caltech Athlete. Please join me in welcoming Bruce Chesborough.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a really enjoyable weekend. I haven't been back to Caltech for 52 years. I live in Montana, so it's a long ways away. That's my excuse. But I came for yesterday's seminar day with my wife, and we had a wonderful time and connected with a lot of friends from all aspects of Caltech life, but in particular, swimming and water polo, and I dabbled in basketball. Ed Preisler was actually my coach, freshman basketball. So it was a wonderful thing to see all these people again, because this really was one of the highlights of my time here at Caltech. And I think everybody who's here understands that athletics and participation in athletics is really a life lesson. It transfers into so many aspects of interpersonal relationships and cooperation, and helps you with self-doubt, gives you confidence to try things that you wouldn't try otherwise, and it teaches you how to accept failure too, which is not something you want to accept willingly, but you have to accept it. You can't win everything. And so I think it's been wonderful for me, and probably for most of you too, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. I also want to say one thing about my old coach, Webb Emery. He was a tremendous person, a great influence on my life, and I'm sorry he isn't here, but he's very strong in my memories. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Next, we have Karen Close, class of 83. Karen ran her way to 2 NAIA championship titles to earn All-American status and placed 6th at the NCAA championships. She is one of just 2 Skyak champions in program history and graduated with 3 Caltech records, including the 100-meter high hurdles, which she held for 11 years. She currently ranks 5th on the all-time list. She still holds 2 other records and is the only female recipient of the Goldsworthy Track Trophy for sportsmanship, team spirit, and proficiency. Please, whoop, whoop, whoop. No, not quite yet. Yes. I thought I was going to go on and on and on, and I probably should, but we'll limit it to that. Please join me in welcoming Karen Close.
I was a good runner, but I was one of the group that people mean when they say a team has depth. but that was okay. I mean, there were more than 100 people on the team, and we had to compete in every workout just to get a spot on the bus going to the next one. So, like we heard earlier, it was an adjustment coming to Caltech and finding I was an army of one. I was the entire women's track team at the time. And that doesn't mean there was a lack of interest in sports among the other tech women. There was a basketball team, well, intercollegiate, that was not intercollegiate at the time, but swimming, tennis, volleyball, soccer, and by the time you populated that, there weren't enough bodies left over for it. Remarkably, that team of one was allowed to exist. Not just exist, I had everything. I had coaches, plural, trainer, uniforms, and an entire schedule that they arranged for me. As looking back on it now, I cannot even believe it. But, yeah. And the thing that makes me sort of feel bad is that Caltech athletics and athletic programs had nothing whatsoever to do with my decision to attend Caltech. But when I look back on my time at Caltech, I realized that some of the most important lessons I learned were through the opportunities I was presented at the athletics department. And I don't mean the determination and will lead to success kind of, but those are great sports lessons. My lesson was more about possibility, that we define what is possible, and that potential is not the same as probable. What I do will determine what I can do tomorrow, and I have control over that. And that has colored almost everything I've done since my time at Tech. So when I received the notice for this honor, I was surprised. I didn't even know there was a Hall of Honor. But I was also sort of humbled, and it made me think back on my time at Caltech. And I realized I had a great debt to the athletic department, and I'm just glad that they gave me this chance to say thank you. Thank you very much.
And it also teaches us adaptability when one's iPad craps out, right? All right, fantastic, fantastic. And now we turn to Henry DeWitt, class of 1968, the most decorated swimmer in program history. Henry starred not just at Caltech, but on a national scale. He won 7 individual SCIAC titles, including the 50 and 100-yard freestyles, 3 times each, setting 5 conference and meet records and breaking marks in both his other title swims. He went on to claim back-to-back NAIA titles in the 50 and 100 freestyle, setting meet records in both, and led the method relay to a 4th place finish. He also placed 2nd in both events at the NCAA championships, earning All-American status for both associations and going on to compete in the 100-meter freestyle at the 1968 Olympic trials in Long Beach. Upon graduation, DeWitt held 12 program records simultaneously, the longest of which remained intact for 27 years. Also named Caltech's Outstanding Athlete in 1968, he was awarded the Campbell Trophy for sportsmanship, improvement, and ability, all 3 years on the varsity team, and captained the squad in his final 2. He was named first team All-SCIAC in water polo as a senior, captaining that squad and winning the Coaches Cup. He became Caltech's only inductee into the NAIA Hall of Fame in 1977. Please join me with a warm welcome for Henry DeWitt.
I had to limit it quite a bit, actually, unfortunately. But, I would contend that rather than being a star athlete, despite Caltech, it was because of Caltech. I applied to 2 colleges out of high school, UC Berkeley and Caltech. I was granted a $300 scholarship from the state to come to Caltech. Think about that for a moment. My parents strongly encouraged me to come, even though I think they realized since my mother was taking a full-time job, I was unlikely to get that $300 in subsequent years. which did not happen. When I came to Caltech, I had minimal swimming experience. I had swum one summer after my junior year, and it was really not particularly good. My expectations were not high. Had I gone to Berkeley, would I have joined them as a walk-on for the swim team, or even survived the first of their workouts? I kind of doubt it. So I would never have achieved what I did had I gone there. It was really not until late in my sophomore year that what was to come came up when I broke records in the 1500. By the way, I have Warren Emery's detailed handwritten notes of all of my time while I was here, and they show I really wasn't all that good as a freshman.
I have to go to work.
My senior year, for some reason,
I know you're going to say something memorable.
Caltech scheduled a duel
No,
with
Ricky.
USC, NCAA championship. Since neither of the parties involved are here to contradict this, I will say that Warren Emery had scheduled it so that I would meet with Peter Dale, the coach at USC at the time, and I ended up swimming for and working for Peter Dale for many years thereafter. Upon leaving Caltech, as I said, I went to the Olympic trials in '68. I think my best year was 1969 when I was a member of the American record-setting 400-meter free relay, which narrowly missed beating the Olympic record from the previous year's Olympic team. Went on to winning several international military championships and continued swimming even today, Masters and Senior Olympics. What I would have to say is because of Caltech, I was able to do that. Anyone who comes here can compete in any sport they want. Reach whatever level they're capable of. There's excellent, I think everyone said, excellent coaching. The coaches generally are laid back. They'll let you get you where you can, but they're not going to push you to go where you can't go. It's just the program that I thought was fabulous. I will say I learned the value of hard work here, although the faculty probably wouldn't have noticed. But anyway, I'd like to thank Caltech for recognizing me, and thank you very much. You got this, John.
Next is Ellen Kleinsasser, class of 1974. One of just two four-time winners of the Goldsworthy Track Trophy. Two-time winners. Four-timers. One of two four-time winners of the Goldsworthy Track Trophy. And captain of the cross-country team as a senior. Alan won 3 Skyac titles and finished up as runner-up in the 800-meter run at the NAIA District Championship twice. Placed 5th in the 880-yard run at the NCAA Championships to earn All-American honors. He graduated with 2 program records and 2 other top 3 times, with his converted marks for the 800-meter 1 minute 50.74, and for the 1500 meters 3 minutes 52.44. Still standing as program records by 5 combined seconds. Please join me in welcoming Alan Kleinsasser.
Good afternoon. I thoroughly enjoyed my 4 years as a Caltech undergrad, and athletics added a great deal of value to that experience. So I want to thank the athletic department, both for support back in the day and for supporting this Hall of Honor now. And I'd like to thank the selection committee for choosing to add me to the roles. I mean, it really is a tremendous honor. I'd like to recognize several guests. My wife, Ann, is here. Ann and I have been married for almost 41 years. But prior to that, she went to quite a few Caltech track meets. In fact, we met through Caltech track. A teammate of mine, Jeff Hearn, class of 72, is dating one of her college friends. And from my point of view, Jeff is the reason that I ever met Ann. So as a teammate, he went well beyond the call of duty. Our son Eric is here today. Eric and Ann are both Occidental alumni, and while he was at Oxy, Eric won more Skyac championships in running than I ever did. I'd also like to thank Jim and Janet Black for coming today. Jim had at least a couple of administrative jobs at Caltech during the 70s, And the Black family was a tremendous booster and supporter of track and cross country, and we really owe them a lot. The person who wrote my bio for this occasion was very kind. It concentrates on individual activities in a way that's particularly fitting, that many people refer to track as an individual sport. And that was my attitude early on. I liked my teammates, but I still thought in terms of taking care of myself in my races and letting other people worry about theirs. But as time passed, I came to see being part of the team is what's really important. In fact, that's pretty much all I remember anymore. It took me a while to understand the meaning of team at a place like Caltech. I guess you've heard this before today, but one loss record is pretty useless as a metric. But I gradually understood the team has a broad meaning and that there's no such thing as an individual sport. So whatever we accomplish, like success on the track, for example, depends on coaches, on teammates, on the supportive athletic department, and then on the wider community. I've already mentioned Caltech staff, but also we had postdocs and grad students who actually came out and trained with us, which really magnified the strength of our efforts. I want to use the rest of my time up here to share the story of one occasion that defined the best Caltech team I was part of. And it was the one occasion in my 4 years in which a one-loss record actually mattered. In fact, it was of paramount importance. The occasion centered on Bert LaBrucherie, who came to Caltech in 1949, which I see 1949 is 3 years before I was born. He was head coach for football and track, and later head coach of cross country and track. And I remember the very first day I was on campus, I went for a run with a cross country teammate, and he was explaining coach to me, and he said he's really old school. And that sounded particularly ominous to my 18-year-old ears. But as I got to know our coach, it became clear that he really was old school, but he was also a fine coach and a first-rate human being. And he really understood and knew how to motivate athletes of all stripes. In fact, it turned out, even though he was a football coach, he could really coach distance runners. Well, in the spring of 1973, LaBrucherie announced that he would be retiring at the end of the season after 24 years of Caltech. So on April 28th, Whittier hosted Caltech for his last dual meet. That should have been a pretty one-sided affair. Whittier had a stronger, deeper team than we had. We had 12 guys to cover 17 events. So, but on Monday of that week, we were informed, and I think Jim Black may be responsible for this bit of knowledge. Somebody uncovered the fact that Bert LaBrucherie's Caltech track and field career one-loss record was 106-105. So if and only if we could pull off a miracle, he would retire with a winning record. So our guys did lots of doubles, triples, and beyond. Greg Griffin ran the mile and the 3 mile. Haywood Robinson ran both sprints and both relays. Greg Hoyt ran both one-lap races and both relays. Charlie Almquist outdid everyone. He ran both hurdles, both relays, and then he entered, for the first time in his career, a high jump. He actually managed to get 3rd place because he figured we needed every point we could get. We outscored Whittier, our weight throwers outscored Whittier 16-2. And although we lost our regular high jumper to illness that day, we gained a first-time pole vaulter who turned out to be the only athlete to clear a height in the pole vault. We got 5 points for Whittier, 0 in that one. For my part, the meet came off almost like the others. I ran the mile, I ran the half mile, and I was getting ready to run the mile relay when our assistant coach, Larry Muth, came up to me and informed me that if we went 1-3 in the 3 mile and won the mile relay, we'd win the meet by 1 point. There's only one scenario here. I had, as a Frosch 2 years earlier, made a solemn promise to myself that I would never run 3 miles on a track. I could violate that promise, step in, and I could maybe even get 3rd place, but that would surely kill the mile relay, which I was on. But of course, who cared about the mile relay if we didn't get that 3rd place? So I ran 3 miles with a handful of Whittier guys surrounding me, while Greg Griffin and his primary opponent pulled farther and farther ahead. I lost track of them. But just as I was finishing my 11th lap, Greg flew by, broke the tape, and lapped me, leaving me with no choice but to claim that 3rd place. Fortunately, I did. The mile relay came along about 15 minutes later. I decided for the only time in my Caltech career I was not up to running the anchor leg, so I ran 2nd. Charlie Almquist gave me a 5-yard lead, and I survived the lap with a cramp, my slowest collegiate 4:40 time, and about a 15-yard deficit, leaving it to Haywood Robinson, who got us a 30-yard lead, and then Greg Hoyt, who had, as a sophomore, poor Greg had the load of our coach's entire career on his shoulder. He came through in the clutch, and you knew that, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. We won the meet by a single point. So the California Tech article about the meet pointed out, I think emphasized that it would be impossible to point to a person or event responsible for the victory, and that was certainly true. But it was also true that if I had to start assigning credit to people, I put myself pretty well down the list. I felt much more humbled than heroic after that day. But I ended up with a different feeling, which is I was extremely proud of my teammates, to have teammates who were up to doing their jobs and then picking up some slack, which happened to be left lying around by me. It took me years to truly appreciate that the 1973 Whittier Dual Meet was the most important meet of my life, and 11 other young lives. So today, 42 years later, you can look up on Wikipedia. Bert Labroucherie had a 24-year winning record at Caltech of 107, 105. And helping that along was the highlight of my career.
Which brings us to our final inductee of this afternoon. Our final inductee in the second class of the Caltech Athletic Hall of Honor is Howell Tyson, class of 1950. Howell holds one of the longest standing records in all of Caltech athletics, as his shot put mark of 49 feet, 4.5 inches, has hardly been threatened since his graduation and fell just 1/4 inch shy of the conference mark at the time. A 3-time SCIAC champion in the shot put and discus, including both titles in 1948. He also graduated with the 3rd best mark in program history in the discus and still sits 10th all time. He also contributed on both the football and basketball teams. Please join me in welcoming Hal Tyson.
Honored to be here. Certainly honored to be a member of this second group. I was born in 1927, and in the years 1932 through 38, I attended grammar school, and 39 through 42 junior high. The grammar school was Grant Elementary School, which used to be, it's no longer there, but it used to be at today's Grant Park. McKinley Junior High is one of 5 junior highs at the time: Elliott, Marshall, Wilson, Washington, and McKinley. I then, after junior high school, I went on to Pasadena Junior College, which today is PCC, but at the time it had a lower division of 11th and 12th grades. So all the students in Pasadena attended one of the 2 campuses of PJC, Pasadena Junior College, for 11th and 12th grades. So going back to the elementary school days of 32 to 38, I learned how to play, in the latter part of that time, I learned how to play kickball. Anybody remembers that? Kickball, which is sort of like softball or baseball, except that you use a ball about the size of a basketball and you kick it. Hopefully kick it somewhere between the second and third baseman so you can get to first base before they tag you with it by throwing it at you. And then after elementary school, I went on to McKinley Junior High, where I learned basketball. I learned how to play basketball, which was turned out to be a lot of fun. But it wasn't until the 9th and 10th grades that I made the McKinley Junior High team. And on my 10th grade, I played quite a bit of basketball. In the 9th grade, just a little bit. I went then on to Pasadena Junior College and played basketball there. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Played it for 2 years, 11th and 12th grades, and I also I want to go back to McKinley for just a second. During those 4 years at McKinley, I took part, or I wanted to take part in the track and field activity because I saw all these track and field athletes out there having a good time. And so I approached the coach of that activity, Cecil Horton, who was a wonderful coach, and asked him how could I get involved. And he looked at me. I was almost 6 feet tall at the time and very musky. He said, well, we don't have a field eventer. We don't have a field event participant in the shot put. I'd like you to try that out, but you're going to have to learn how to do that, of course. I'll help you with some teaching. So I went to work on that, and by the time I got to the 9th grade, I was scoring some points in the meets with the various other teams, Elliott, Marshall, Wilson, and Washington. And by the 10th grade, I managed to win the league championship there. I carried that on to PJC. I played basketball at PJC and also track and field, the shot put again, and had fun with that. We played a lot of different teams in the Pasadena, in the San Gabriel Valley and Los Angeles area. I had a lot of fun with that. And then in the high school days, in the 11th and 12th years, and also some of the junior high days, I thought about what I was going to do with my life later. And my dad was an engineer, a rather successful one, both on his own part with a small company and also with his activity at Caltech as a professor. He didn't become a professor until later, but I was very interested in his engineering activities, and I thought I'd like to try to become a mechanical engineer. How to do that? Well, I'd like to, if I can make it, I'd like to get into Caltech and get them to teach me how to become a good mechanical engineer. So I spent my senior year in high school almost the entire year studying for the entrance exam to Caltech, and I made it by just a touch. But I got in, and Caltech was one of the periods of my life that was extremely enjoyable. Well, the first year, as a freshman in 1944-45, I went out for basketball again, and also I went out for track and field to put the shot, and I set the freshman shot put record, which still stands, I think, today. I think it's still there. I'm not absolutely sure of that. In 1945, it was an interesting time. You may remember that VE Day occurred May 8th, 1945, and on that day, Caltech was out for the day because of that immensely important happening. And some of us said, let's go to the beach. And another one said, I've got a pickup truck, let's take it. And another one said, I know where we can find some girls. And so that brought us to UCLA, where he went to one of the dorms and knocked on the door, and the person answered the door, who's sitting right at that table over there, Dorothy, and she was asked, were there some girls that would like to go to the beach with us? And she said, well, I'll have a look. And she did. And she rounded up some, and we all had a great time at the beach. So that was a lot of fun. In the years 45 and 46, I was in the service. The service for me was a Naval Reserve opportunity to be with the U.S. Merchant Marine Cadet Corps for that period. The first year of that period was basic training at San Mateo. The second year was one of the best years of my life, apart from meeting Dorothy. And going to sea for that year, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I went to sea on a freighter to the Philippines, a tanker to Japan and Persian Gulf, and a freighter to South America, and enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a great experience. So then I came back to Caltech in 47, came back to Caltech in 48, 9, and 50. And again, got involved in athletics, but this time in 48 and 49, I thought, I'd like to, because of the coaches that were there, Bert LaBerchery later, but Mason Anderson in 48, I thought I'd like to have a go at football. I never played football in high school, and so I thought I'd like to have a go at it to see what it was like. And I dropped out of basketball in order to play football. I wanted to. I couldn't manage academically. I couldn't manage more sports. So I dropped out of basketball, played football, practiced football, I should say, in 48, and then I got some playing time in 49, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Mason Anderson was a fabulous coach, and Bert LaBerchery was too. And then I continued the track and field in 49, and then the meet with Occidental in 1950, I set the record that it is today. And so I had a thoroughly good time. It's just amazing to have the instruction of the coaches, Carl Shai in basketball, Mason Anderson and Bert LaBerchery in football. And, athletics to me was a terrific break in the day between the classes at Caltech and the homework afterwards. So in other words, classes, then athletic activity, and then the homework. And the athletic activity was great, not only because of my interest in the sports, but a chance to meet my fellow athletic friends and classmates. It was a great time. Caltech was a fabulous experience for me, and I thank you very much.
Could I have another round of applause for our induction crew? Well, you can see why I don't have much to say on a day like this. The voices of our students, our current students, of our honorees as alumni, the people who paved the path, are more than enough. I would say that because at my heart I'm a coach and a teacher. Were I to have words, they would only echo what we've heard from our inductees. The incredible role of team and teammates to push us, to make us better. The mentorship of our coaches, the role that people in our lives have to push us, make us better, help us, guide us, teach us. We heard of possibility and the maximization of potential and the belief in self, where much is needed and sometimes not much exists. We also heard humor and perspective, and that of great self-awareness required or cultivated through this amazing thing called competitive athletics and being an athlete. In the pictures in your program and on the screens, you have seen your inductees at different stages of their life, some with more hair than now and some with less hair than now, and all in somewhat slightly more awkward uniforms than our students enjoy today. But the experience is very similar. I'm one who believes in similarity more than in difference, and I hope that you all heard these messages today, and they've resonated with your experience in your time at Caltech. So, the only thing left to actually do is induct our honorees. So while they could come forward, and we'll stand here together and we'll face out and I'll do some proclaiming. By someone smarter, better, wiser, better with the English language than I. All right, we'll gather in there, yeah. Form it up, there we go. All right, very officious. Are we ready? Since the doors first opened as Throop University in 1891, the California Institute of Technology has changed conventional perspective in the math and science realm. From the concept of jet propulsion to deep space exploration, the notion of the quark to nanotechnology, Caltech's population of innovative thinkers has collectively challenged the world. The mission of Caltech is to expand human knowledge and benefit society while also educating outstanding students to become creative members of society. Intercollegiate athletics has existed on this campus for these outstanding students as a competitive outlet and as a practical support to the philosophy that a sound mind and a healthy spirit reside in one body. With over a century's worth of teams, student athletes, and coaches, this athletic department is indeed rich in history. We are here today to honor those who helped form that history. This eclectic group encompasses multiple decades, numerous sports, and countless accolades, ranging from program record holders to SCIAC champions and All-Americans. Whereas, the NCAA Division III experience offers participation in a competitive athletic environment that pushes student athletes to succeed on and off the field. And whereas, the mission of Caltech is to expand knowledge and benefit society through integrated education. And whereas, the Department of Athletics here passionately supports the philosophy, sound mind, and healthy spirit residing in a sound body. Whereas this team and these individuals not only embody the collective mission of the aforementioned, they excelled above and beyond expectations. And whereas this group represents the rich historic past of Caltech athletics, I proudly induct them into our Hall of Honor.